So you're trying to choose a Montessori training course, and it feels like you're lost in a maze, right? You see all these acronyms, AMI, AMS, and you're wondering, what's the real difference? Well, if you're feeling a little lost in all the options, you are definitely in the right place. Today, we're going to cut through all that confusion and help you find the perfect path for you.
I mean, this is probably the exact question that brought you here. Which course is best? And honestly, with all the different certifications and philosophies flying around, it's so easy to feel overwhelmed. But don't worry, we're about to make this a whole lot clearer.
Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to talk about why it feels like a Montessori maze out there. Then, we'll get grounded in the core philosophy, what makes Montessori, well, Montessori. From there, we'll dive into the two main paths, compare them side by side, and finally, we'll get to the most important part, figuring out how you can find your perfect fit.
All right, let's just dive right into that feeling of being completely lost. You hear Montessori and you think, okay, I got this. It's one thing. But then you start digging, and suddenly you're drowning in acronyms, different training centers, and what feels like a whole lot of conflicting info. If that sounds familiar, trust me, you are not alone.
Yeah, the second you start searching, you get hit with this alphabet soup, right? AMI, AMS, and a whole bunch of others. It really does feel like you need some kind of secret decoder ring just to figure out what's what. This is usually the first big hurdle, and it's where the confusion really kicks in for so many of us.
Okay, so before we can even start comparing courses, we've got to get on the same page. What does Montessori even mean at its core? Let's get back to the basic principles that every single authentic program shares. This is our foundation.
You know, at its heart, the Montessori method is, well, it's revolutionary. It's all built on this incredibly deep, profound respect for the child. It's a scientific approach that basically says, we trust you to learn. We're just here to create the absolute best environment for that to happen.
And this is where the magic really happens, because all these principles are totally interconnected. Child-led learning isn't just chaos. It's what happens when you have a meticulously prepared environment. And those classic materials you see, they're not just toys, nope. They are precision-engineered tools for hands-on discovery. And those long, uninterrupted work periods, that's where kids develop that incredible, deep focus. It's all about freedom, but freedom within clear, defined limits. This is the shared DNA.
All right, so we've got our foundation set. Now, let's get into the two biggest ways people interpret Dr. Montessori's work.
Now, this is a really, really important point. We're not talking about rivals here, you know? There's no right way and wrong way. I like to think of it like a big, strong tree. Maria Montessori planted the trunk, and from that trunk, two major branches have grown out. They're both connected to the same powerful roots, they just reach for the sun in slightly different ways.
So on one branch, you've got AMI. This is the organization Maria Montessori herself founded. Think of them as the guardians of the original flame. You know, they are committed to preserving her methods with absolute precision. And then on the other branch, you've got AMS. They came about with this idea of, hey, how can we adapt this amazing philosophy for American culture and mix it with modern educational research?
Okay, let's get to the main event. Let's actually put these two side by side and see how they really compare when it comes to teacher training. So the biggest difference really boils down to this one idea: purity versus flexibility. An AMI course, it's like a perfectly preserved, time-tested recipe. It's going to be the exact same powerful experience whether you take it in Tokyo or Toronto. It's all about consistency. An AMS course, on the other hand, is kind of like a classic family recipe that's been tweaked over the years. You know, you add a new spice here, a modern technique there.
And, of course, that difference in philosophy totally changes what you actually learn. AMI training is this super intense, deep dive into Montessori's original work. I mean, it is all about mastering the source material. AMS training is also incredibly rigorous, don't get me wrong, but it also folds in subjects you'd see in a more typical education degree, things like contemporary child psychology, or even how to run a school. It's preparing you for a slightly broader range of settings.
So let's just pull this all together for a second. You can really see how everything flows from that one big philosophical split, right? AMI's laser focus on preservation leads to a really traditional, standardized approach, from the materials to the classroom. In contrast, AMS's core value of adaptation allows for more flexibility, more openness to new materials and different classroom practices. It's really a choice between that rock-solid consistency and a more creative, customizable approach.
Okay, so with all of this on the table, how in the world do you actually make a choice? And listen, it's not about which one is best. It's about which one is the right fit for you. And that's what we're going to get to the bottom of right now.
At the end of the day, there is no magic formula for this.
The right path for you is going to be this really unique mix of your own personal goals, what you believe about education, and of course the kids you want to work with. It's a deeply personal choice.
So, to help you figure this out, let's walk through 3 big questions you should ask yourself. Number 1, are you more of a traditionalist? Do you love the idea of that pure, authentic approach? Or are you excited about mixing things up, maybe bringing in some of the latest educational research? Number 2, what's the end game here? What are your career goals? Do you picture yourself in a classic Montessori school, or maybe bringing these ideas into a public school setting? And finally, number 3, close your eyes and picture the classroom. What's the environment you truly envision for your students? Being honest with yourself here is what will point you in the right direction.
You know, it's so easy to get caught up in the weeds here, debating AMI versus AMS. But let's pull back for a second and remember what Maria Montessori's ultimate goal was. It was never about creating some rigid system. It was all about empowering children, helping them get so engaged and independent in their own learning that the teacher almost fades into the background. That's a goal that both of these paths deeply share.
So as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with one final thought. Look, the certificate you hang on the wall, that's important. The training you get is absolutely crucial, but they're just the starting line. The real magic, the Montessori magic, happens in that incredible space between a prepared, passionate adult and a curious child. So the real question is, which of these paths is going to best prepare you to create that magic? And that, my friends, is a question only you can answer.